Remember our favorite Nazi? Who can speak up and say, who was our favorite Nazi? Werner von Braun. Hit it right on the head. Werner said in 1959 in a news conference in Chicago, and this comment was placed in the Chicago newspapers in 1959. He said, "We find ourselves faced by powers which are far stronger than we had hitherto assumed, and whose base is at present unknown to us. I cannot say more at present. We are now engaged in entering into closer contact with these powers." This is Werner in 1959. Another German, Professor Hermann Oberth, one of the world's greatest rocket scientists, said, "We cannot take the credit for our own record advancement in certain scientific fields. We have been helped by the people of other worlds." Now the plot thickens. The stew is getting thicker here, guys. Where does all of this lead us? Well, I can tell you where it has been leading me over the years. We are on this tiny planet deeply involved with advanced intelligences from all kinds of other places. As I said, we're not only dealing with guys from other planets, we're dealing with guys from other star systems, we're dealing with guys from other galaxies, and we're dealing with guys that are popping through portals from other dimensions. This is all going on all the time. Now, who the hell are these people? And why are they here? And why are they interested in us? And what the hell is it all about? Well, I can tell you a little bit, being a student of history, who our ancestors considered them to be. And I love history. If we only just learned to pay attention to it. If we only learned a few lessons from history. But our ancestors, over the centuries, from ancient Sumer to Greece, Rome, called them the following. These guys we're talking about. Controllers, protectors, gardeners, emissaries, watchers, angels, messengers, guardians, monitors, recorders, and some ancient civilizations called them the builders. I call them the custodians. I think that word probably is closer to what their role really is. They are custodians. I guess if I had gone to bed like I should have last night and not spent time with that bunch of rowdies, I'd be in better shape.
Check.
A different mic?
Start with this one.
All right. Is that better? All right. Okay, we were talking about who these guys are. I'm sorry, guys, I don't hear that.
We can hear you perfectly.
All right, honey, thank you so much. Who are these guys? They're all over the damn place. They're in our midst. There's a couple of three of them, I'm sure, sitting here this afternoon in this audience. I've never been to a conference where there wasn't really one or two. We're being analyzed, guys. We're being surveyed. We're being observed. We're being monitored. We're being guided. We're closely watched. We're being weighed, evaluated, examined, tested, encouraged, nourished, and nurtured. Who's doing the job? Who's doing all this nurturing? Who's doing all this testing, watching, encouraging, whatever? Well, we got some biologists, anthropologists, chemists, psychologists, philosophers, geneticists, linguists, geologists, zoologists. Oh, the scientific field is covered entirely with these guys, and some of them are something else. I mean, they're eons ahead of us when it comes to the sciences. And by the way, the planet Earth is currently quarantined. I wanted to let you know that. It's not so much that keeping other people from coming, it's to keep us from going out there. Because we are considered a primitive, savage, and dangerous race. And I agree wholeheartedly. We are a primitive, savage, and dangerous race. And we have no goddamn business going out there. Because if we can't get our own act together here and stop warring against each other, what in the world do we think that we can take our little pensions to go out into space-time, to the galaxy? Okay. Forgive me for the rambling. You've heard these quotations. You've heard these comments about us being property. I have had an experience where I have been told, literally, what the situation really is. We aren't just property. We are under quarantine, by the way, but we aren't property. They don't own us, as it were. The closest example that they have given me, and I've gotten this face to face with some of them, the human race on planet Earth is under what I would describe as a trusteeship. And I think all of you are aware of what a trusteeship is. You've heard about the establishment of a trust. Let's say a wealthy father, a millionaire, billionaire father, has about 3 or 4 kids. They're adolescents, they're not grown up yet. They can't be trusted. He's got a fortune, and he wants to leave it to them, and he wants to give them the benefit of that fortune, but he knows damn well he can't turn over that fortune to these nitwits, these young kids running around, because they'd screw things up royally. So he puts a trust. He establishes a trust. And he puts all the money and all the goodies and all the power and the property and everything else in this trust. And it's designed that when the kids grow up and mature and go through their adolescence and become adults, that they can claim the trust. They can claim the joy, the benefits, the goodies, the power, the property, all that stuff. Because they're mature enough that they'll be able to deal with it and handle it intelligently in a mature way. Well, that's what a loving father will do sometimes, a billionaire father who loves his kids, but he doesn't trust them yet because they haven't grown up yet. So he establishes this trust. Now, the trust has a board of trustees. And this board of trustees advises and makes decisions on the property, on the wealth and the value. And as I'm describing this, think of how this applies to our situation here on this planet today. We are under a trusteeship. There is a board of directors, there is a board of trustees, and there is a decision-making authority to the trust. Well, I can tell you that this decision-making authority is not even in our galaxy. And that's a shock when I first found out that there is indeed what is known as a galactic federation. So help me God, there is a galactic federation, and the headquarters is not even in our galaxy. Okay. Excuse the rambling here again. You've heard the term black government, shadow government. And many of you may not even know what the hell we're talking about. We know this, that the government you think you've got is not the government you've got. Now, we all laugh and joke and make fun of that bunch of nitwits back there that calls itself a Congress. I call them nincompoops. They really don't know what the hell's going on either. But they think they're running the country, but they're really not. They're making things up. They're messing around with money and taxes and all this and other. And they're starting wars here and there. And there's another bunch of nitwits at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Nitwits and nincompoops. God, we need Mark Twain. I wish the hell he was back. He had ways of describing these guys. I think it was Mark Twain who said that we had a form of constitutional government that was designed by geniuses to be run by idiots. And I think that pretty well describes what's been going on in Washington recently. But there is a shadow government, guys. Has been for some time. Let me give you another quotation, if I may. This was by Daniel Inouye, United States Senator from Hawaii in 1987. He says this: there apparently exists a shadowy government, apparently with its own Air Force, its own Navy, its own fund-raising mechanisms, and its own ability to pursue its own ideas of the national interest, free from all checks and balances, and obviously free from the law itself. Dan Inouye said that in 1987. And boy, did he hit the nail on the head. So what you see back there, what you read in the newspapers, what you see on television, is really a farce. The nincompoops are at work. They're screwing things up. They're messing around with this beautiful constitutional idea. They're trying to wreck it, literally. But they're not really in charge. I'll tell you that the trusteeship is in charge. I also want to share something with you about the benefits of modern science. Another quote, if you don't mind. Wendell Stevens and I were a dear friend of mine. I miss him terribly. He went home last year. Wendell and I put a conference together in Phoenix in 1993. And one of the speakers that we got to speak at this conference in Phoenix was a scientist, a NASA scientist by the name of David Froning. Now, David had spent 30 years working with the Advanced Systems Division of McDonnell Douglas and NASA. David, in 1993, said in front of 1,500 people in Phoenix at a big conference, he said, "We have had hyperluminal flight capability for the past 30 years. And Wendell and I did a double take and said, wait a minute, David. Hyperluminal flight? You say we've had it for 30 years? He said, oh, yeah. We've been using transluminal flight since 1960. He said, we are using a modified field propulsion system utilizing exotic field tension through matter-antimatter conversion that actually modifies time and space. We can literally create a variable field around the craft that completely insulates the craft and anyone in it from the space-time continuum. And it regularly limits